Hey, I'm on the edge of my seat here, back again with another brand new video, and today I'll be no damaging every single final boss in the Metal Gear Solid Saga, and I like to put extra emphasis on Saga because this is not going to include games which don't have Solid in the title. So the original Metal Gear 1, Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake, the NES variants, Metal Gear Acid, Metal Gear Rising, those final boss fights will not be in this video. However, if you're interested in seeing a no damage of the boss fights in Metal Gear Rising, I do have a video specifically just for that in my Metal Gear Solid no damage playlist. All the clips here are actually from previous videos I've already made where I've no damaged the entirety of the previous games. This final boss fight is from my no damage of the first Metal Gear Solid playing the GOG PC version. This is not the Master Collection version. This was kind of like the bit of a flawed, bit of a weird version from GOG, which worked well enough to play with a controller, but it wasn't perfect. But the Master Collection version does exist now, so you can kind of just pick it up on Steam for more convenience. Not sure if that version is very good. I mean, I'm hearing mostly good things about it. But yeah, no, when it comes to this actual fight here, once Liquid says nice shot, which he's already said, he'll enter his second phase. And another thing you gotta watch out for in this original Metal Gear Solid 1, not Twin Snakes, is that on normal difficulty, if you fall off this big Metal Gear, you'll hang on to it to not fall, but on extreme difficulty, it seems that you immediately fall off, and that's probably why I move in a specific way. And also, throughout this video, I will be shouting out a lot of YouTubers, because a lot of very specific YouTubers help me with strategies to defeat and no damage these final boss fights, and a majority of all the games. So I gotta shout out Plywood Gaming because he knows how to do an infinite strategy with Liquid, but I could not copy him. But in practice with in the essence of trying to copy the speedrun strategy, like the infiniting Liquid strategy, for the first phase I just kind of do one punch, I make him dodge, and then once he does his counter attack, I do a combo. In the second phase I kind of do this thing where I do a punch, and then when I reach the kick button, I open up my inventory, and I think opening up my inventory actually makes it easier to dodge his retaliation attack, because in the second phase, he does get that retaliation attack where he attacks twice. In the third phase, he won't be doing retaliation attacks, but he will be doing this bull charge attack, which you really have to watch out for, and he's going to be a little bit weird and dodgy. He's always going to be approaching his position. I actually had a really tough time no damaging Liquid in the very first Metal Gear Solid. A very decently tough fight, but not impossible. A little bit rigid, just like the melee combat in the first game isn't the best. And Metal Gear Solid 2 has a brand new melee combat system, which is a little bit weird by modern standards, but I think I like this one better than the first game, which means I like this boss fight better than Liquid in the first game. There's a little bit more going on. I think my only issue with this new boss fight, Solidus, is that he has an insane amount of health. I mean, I will be playing every single one of these boss fights on their hardest difficulty possible. The previous fight was done on extreme difficulty. This is done on European extreme. And I think Metal Gear Solid 2 might have the longest health bars. Oh, wait, that's not true. Peace Walker still exists, but besides Peace Walker, I'm pretty sure Metal Gear Solid 2 has the longest health bars out of any of the boss fights in the saga on the hardest difficulty. Because Snake Eater, if you play it normally, the boss fights may have long health bars, but there's always a way to kind of cheese those fights or use really overpowered weapons to get by that. In this fight, your options are limited. All you can really use in an effective manner is your katanas. So you're gonna stick with the katana. Actually, I'm not even sure if you have other weapons at this exact moment. It may only be the katanas, but I'm not 100% sure. But the way you fight Solidus here, okay, so you have a main loop. And the main loop is simple enough. You kind of want to bait out a block attack. No, you kind of want to bait out a block. You hit him, he blocks. And most of the time when you do that, he'll retaliate with this big old kick. Let's see if he'll do it now. No. That's another attack I'm going to get to later. So yeah, you make him block, he'll do a kick, and then you do 1, 2. You wait for him to get up, and okay, you attack a little bit later than that, because if you attack too early, you just do the basic 3-hit combo, which means he'll start doing some of these unfavorable attacks. You want to get him in a loop, because besides this one retaliation attack, okay, also sometimes he'll just fuck with you even if you do the loop correctly, where you want to bait out the kick, but every now and then he'll just do a random sword slice, and the sword slice has different timing, so it just kind of fucks with you, but most of the time you want to bait out this loop because most of the other attacks he does are very unfavorable, and you can't block them, and they're kind of hard to dodge. So you kind of want to just do this for a majority of the fight as long as possible, and if you're really good, you can do this for the entire fight, but I fuck it up every now and then, and every now and then he just fucks with me and does an attack which fucks up my rhythm and everything, so Yeah, no, that's one thing which I really wanted to explain about the main loop. The main loop can get fucked up just because the game decides to fuck with you a little bit. And I believe that during this Solidus fight, while recording this no damage, I was screaming my head off in a Discord call during like my sophomore year of college. I mean, that doesn't really add too much context to the whole thing. But no, I don't think I was like screaming my head off during the commentary of this no damage. I was like screaming my head off during like while recording the no commentary of this no damage. So, you know, Metal Gear Solid 2 was the first Metal Gear Solid game I did a no damage video for. I think like I started doing it around like April 30th because, you know, same date appears in the game. It's a very important date. I don't think I released it April 30th. I'm pretty sure I released this video like May 17th, so, you know, that kind of explains how long it took me to do this entire thing. But I am also playing the PS3 HD collection. I think it's called the Masters Collection version of this game, so, you know, take that as you will. One of the fun things about the original Metal Gear Solid 2 is, I believe the original PS2 version runs at a perfect 60 FPS, which that is not the case with Snake Eater, that is not the case with, I think, Metal Gear Solid 1, and that is certainly not the case with Metal Gear Solid 4 Portable Ops, so like, Metal Gear Solid 2 just kind of set a really high standards for frame rates, with the original version of the game too, so like, Snake Eater wouldn't run at 60 FPS until we got like, you know, the PS3 and Xbox 360 Master Collections, and even then, there's moments where there's like a bit of slowdown. Now, whether or not there's slowdown in the original version of Metal Gear Solid 2, I'll have to check that out myself. But it's just kind of funny because then a PS Vita version of like Metal Gear Solid 2 got released, and the PS Vita version, I'm pretty sure, runs mostly at 30 FPS. That might be like the first version of the game to run at like a suboptimal, to run at 30 FPS. And then I think the Switch version of Metal Gear Solid 2, with like the Master Collection version, might also run at 30 FPS, which that is actually bonkers. That is like unacceptable, but I might have wrong information there, so someone please double check that for me. But if that is the case, holy shit, that is stupid. But besides that, I've also heard mostly good things about the Master Collection of Metal Gear Solid 2, which I did not play. Like, at least the one on Steam and just, like, modern consoles. But if you don't want to play those versions, you could just play the original PS2 version, and it still runs at 60 FPS. Not at 1080p, mind you. It is a 480i game, and it's a beautiful-looking 480i game. Metal Gear Solid 2 is, like, one of the first PS2 games, and it also just looks phenomenal for the time. And has aged, like, pretty gracefully that you can kind of upscale the game, and it still just looks really, really nice. There was another thing I wanted to mention about this Solidus fight, but I just kind of got distracted by the topic I wanted to bring up, is that in the second phase, Solidus has a 3-hit combo where you can't block the third hit, so watch out for that. But a lot of the attacks in the first phase, you have the missiles. The way you dodge the missiles is kind of self-explanatory. Just run to the end of the building and just pray that like you're hanging on and like, you know, getting back on, like pulling up iframes, like kind of saves you from the missiles. He has like the tentacle thing where he tries to sweep you with the tentacles. You can't block that, so you want to keep your distance. Because like Solidus has so many attacks that just will screw you over, you can't block. You really don't want to like run straight at him. You kind of want to like do circles to bait out an attack. And once he baits out an attack, then you go straight to him and try to like, you know, bait out a block from him. So because once you bait out a block from him, he'll do a kick attack most of the time. So anyways, we're finally here with a Twin Snakes version of the Liquid fight, which from my previous commentary videos, which I've been researching just to kind of get more points to talk about, this is an easier and harder fight than the original game for multiple reasons. So shout out to Jaguar King for no damaging all the boss fights in the Twin Snakes, which helped me with my own attempts at no damaging the boss fights. For one, Liquid. Okay, so the previous strategy in the first phase of like doing like a punch feint so he dodges and does a kick. You can't really do the same thing in this fight for the first phase because when you collide with Liquid's body in the Twin Snake, you kind of go like get staggered. You're like, ugh. So yeah, in that first phase, if you try to do the same strategy as in the original game, when Liquid dodges your first punch, he'll collide with your body, which will leave you stunned enough that you can't dodge like the next attack he does. So you kind of have to like do a little bit, baiting that shit out is actually a lot more annoying in this game. And just your positioning is a lot more annoying than in this game overall as well. Just ugh. But some of these other phases are a lot easier. For one, in the second phase, you can do this thing where you just constantly knock him over and over again. And the Twin Snakes adds a fun gameplay feature for Metal Gear Solid 2, the dog tag. So in order to get like Liquid's dog tag, you just have to like knock him over. And I think for the other boss fights, to get their dog tags, you have to pretty much do non-lethal method for them. But this game kind of does a fun thing where attacking him just depletes the health and the stamina bar. So that's fun. I do like the original game a lot more. Well, I do like the original game better, just I think the story presentation works like a lot more. Just the goofiness of the Twin Snake I'm not the biggest fan of, but it is still a really fun game. I do also think Metal Gear Solid 2 is more fun because the design of that gameplay works for that game's levels better than the original game's levels, but Twist Snake is a fun little remix of the original. I do recommend playing it eventually. I own a GameCube copy, and that game is just absurdly expensive these days, so it's kind of a valuable item I have. Very nice. You can tell because I recorded the footage in like 480i. That was back in the days I didn't have an upscaling device like the RetroTink 5X. And I also played on an original GameCube, which I don't own anymore because I have a Wii and I just kind of treat the Wii like its own GameCube. And another annoying thing about Liquid and the Twin Snakes, that in the third phase, when he does the bull charge attack, he's not open after doing it. He can just immediately attack you afterwards. In the original, that's not the case. In the original, he does the bull charge attack and you can attack him straight up, but in the Twin Snakes, nope, he's still dangerous. So that sucks. I don't like that. Anyways, Snake Eater. For Snake Eater, I gotta shout out George Solonic. I gotta shout out because he had so much useful info on the certain weaknesses of certain fights in Snake Eater. And he also taught me how to counter the boss in Snake Eater. It's really weird, but you basically have to press the CQC button the second you hear Snake grunt. And it has to be like exactly on the dot, and if it's not exactly on the dot, you fail. And what makes this even worse is the boss is unpredictable when it comes to CQC, because sometimes she'll step to the side, which has slightly different CQC timing, but thankfully, in this attempt I did here years ago, she did it like the standard way every time where she ran straight at you, and that's like the easiest timing to deal with. But even there's a little bit of variance. You just really have to like pay attention to that grunt and have really fast reaction speeds. And the rest of this fight is pretty self-explanatory. Once you get the CQC like timing down, you run up, you do a CQC, you do that little pattern there with a sniper, throw down, sniper. You run straight to her when she runs away, and you bait out pretty much this 4 or 5 times, and the fight's over. But if you do not know how to do CQC timings, you're basically screwed. Yeah, no, but this is really fantastic fight just because like there's so many different ways to approach her. This is like the only fight. This is like the first fight in the series. I mean, I don't know about like Metal Gear Solid 1 or no Metal Gear 1 or Metal Gear 2, but it's the first one where it feels like you have every tool available to you. You have your entire inventory available. You know, you have your CQC available. You have stealth available. While in the previous games, Metal Gear Solid 1, Metal Gear Solid 2, they were mostly combat focused, and there's nothing you can really do about it. And this fight also feels very combat focused. This is Portable Ops, and in Portable Ops, when you're playing on extreme difficulty, the boss fights have so much health on extreme, it is infuriating. And I am playing an emulated version of Portable Ops here, so that's why the graphics are 1080p. There is a 60 FPS mod out there, and maybe I think there's a mod to make the controls normal. I did not know how to install those mods, so I'm just kind of playing the game in its original like 20 FPS glory. Important YouTubers to shout out for the no damage of this one are Sam Vicodin for their no damage with the boss rush of Portable Ops Plus, and Jaguar King for their no damage on all the boss fights except for Gene, and Sappy Joker Gaming for their ghost run of Portable Ops. All that was really useful. One of the most annoying things about this fight is that while I was no damaging Gene, I stubbed my toe while no damaging him. Like, fuck! Dude, it really hurt. And it also took me like 3 hours to no damage Gene. Is that the most amount of time I spent no damaging a boss fight? No, but 3 hours still feels like an insane amount of time, even though there's certain fights that took me like 2 to 3 days. I think I've actually struggled with no damaging certain boss fights in like Spider-Man 2, well, the newest one. But yeah, whenever he does his purple like psychic attack, you just keep shooting until you knock him out of it. And then for every other attack, you basically have to like bait out 1 or 2 specific attacks, and then you're allowed to shoot. Because if you just shoot him like willy-nilly, whenever he's just like normally walking around, he'll just dodge and throw a knife at you so fast that you can't dodge it. I like to kind of like bait out like the one big knife throw, not this one. Though once he's done with this one, you know, you can kind of do a big shot there. You know, every time he stops, he kind of throws like 3 knives. I dodge that. Let's see if he'll do it this time. He'll be like, no, he's just getting to position for something. I don't know. So like, I'm also trying to bait out this one rush attack he does, like this one big yellow rush attack. Boom. Whenever he does that, he's open to attack, but you really have to like position yourself really well because that attack will also kill you with 1 hit if it actually lands. So you have to like just keep dodge rolling, you know, kind of hope for the best, try to bait that attack out. That's kind of like the best thing that could happen because, you know, you can get straight up to him, you can deal the most damage, and yes, I am not playing this non-lethally. I don't know how painful a non-lethal run would be because this was already pretty painful, like lethally. Though this might be my favorite boss fight in the game, just because I think a majority of the boss fights in Portable Ops are just, to coin a phrase from Spike Lee, not my cup of tea. But this boss fight, I mean, I love the music. I kind of like the confrontational nature of this. And if the PSP controls were not in place, this would probably be a lot more fun to fight because just like controlling the camera is also like one of the biggest issues in that fight. Anyways, we're here with the final boss fight of Metal Gear Solid 4. The second half of this video is going to be mostly Peace Walker and the Phantom Pain. But here's a fight that's actually going to take a while. Okay, the Metal Gear Solid 2 boss fight also takes a while. It's just like the other ones, it didn't take too long. So in the beginning of this phase, I do the most ambitious dodging possible. I just abuse the dodge iframes to pretty much like avoid that guy's entire combo. And then we pretty much just keep doing that until we drag him into this corner. And for the entirety of the rest of the first phase, we're just going to keep doing these strong attacks. I think doing the strong attack, you have to block and then press like the strong attack button. You'll just do this 1-2 combo. And you can just repeat this loop until the second phase. And in the second phase, things are going to change for the more tedious, but there is a concrete strategy for no damaging the second phase. And then the third phase is kind of a crapshoot, and I haven't seen a single person have a concrete strategy for it, and that's probably why I'm the first person to upload a all Metal Gear Solid like final boss fights no damage, because I'm pretty sure most people have not no damaged this fight. Actually, I think there was one YouTuber who did it. I'm going to have to shout out some important YouTubers. BondLover1313, who no damaged the entire game except for certain parts of Metal Gear Solid 4. Dante Double 12 for his Metal Gear Raid no damage, with help of my own. Jaguar King for his speedrun and his vamp no damage. And George Salonique for his defeating boss fights easier. Just like a lot of the strategies he used just helped me defeat the boss fights easier. Though a lot of it relied on being on New Game Plus and also assumed that I wanted to take damage for certain fights, which I did not! I gotta shout out Vash, like 13249 for his run of the final area of Act 2. A lot of these no damagers are specifically for my entire Metal Gear Solid 4 no damage, not for this final boss fight. But yeah, what you want to do here is you want to bait out that strong attack and then do one strong attack yourself, and that's like the entire strategy. Because a lot of the other strategies, just like they're a little too risky. Because Ocelot, when you start doing like full combos, you just start dodging your attacks a lot more frequently, or like armoring through them. So he gets pretty nasty here. And yeah, the changing of health bars, the changing of music, it's all very classic, and just the framing, the cinematic like nature of this entire thing, super dope. I will say it is kind of ballsy of this game to just introduce an entirely new combat system for its final boss fight. You know, it's like everything you learned like playing the entire game does not apply here, aside from maybe the Metal Gear like Rex fight, where a bit of a similar combat system is happening in this fight compared to this fight. But like you have like dodge steps, you have like heat actions, you don't have any of this shit in like the rest of the game, so bit of a gimmicky final boss. It's not really fully testing your skills, but it is like a huge love letter to the entire franchise. And the combat system you are playing with here is decently fun. But yeah, no, that's just my complaints out of the way. Let me continue shouting people out. So I gotta shout out like Mosaic J for their no damage at the Act 3 set piece. And yeah, those are the YouTubers I wanted to shout out. But there was a specific YouTuber, which I forgot the name of, who did no damage the third phase of the Ocelot fight, but I don't understand his strategy because he did not have commentary in his no damage. I will have commentary in my no damage, and I'll tell you up front, the third phase is a bunch of bullshit for no damage, holy shit. And hey, look, we're finally here. The health bars change, which is awesome, a couple new gimmicks get added, it's pretty dope. But my entire strategy just revolves into like, wait for him to dodge into you or try to attack, and then do a full combo and pray. Because like every now and then he'll do like this CQC thing, and yeah, you know, don't fuck up the QTEs there, because if you fuck up the QTEs, you'll take damage. And there's gonna be one where you're gonna have to like spam like the control stick for dear life so that your stamina doesn't run out to the point where you take damage. So you really have to rotate that stick for dear life, you know, not fail any of the QTEs. But also, it's just like a nasty camper. He dodges a lot in this fight. He has CQC maneuvers. He'll sometimes just punch you or dodge and punch. So like my entire strategy is just like, wait for him to like dodge in, do a full combo, and then hope for the best. And that's it. That's all I've got. So if you're really struggling to no damage this fight, you know, don't be alarmed. That's just the normal progression of this shit, because it just is not normal. Yeah, he'll sometimes do shit like that and go, Aah! And I mean, I love the Snake Eater theme. I love that it kind of like picks up here. But yeah, another thing I want to mention is that you can't save during the final boss fight of Metal Gear Solid 4. So like, I was under the impression that like for my full no damage video, I would just like call up the codec, you know, save during this fight, so I don't have to repeat the entire microwave sequence. But no, the only chance you get to save like before this boss fight is like just the game telling you, hey, do you want to save? Because like there's certain moments in this game where like the cutscenes are so long that you'll just like randomly get like a prompt to save the game. And I decided not to take it because I was kind of like, I think I prefer to save in the middle of the fight so that when I reload a save, it'll just load up the fight immediately. But no, you can't do it. So I had to repeat the entire microwave sequence from the start and then actually save when the game prompted me to, instead of like waiting to enter the boss fight and calling the codec, because the codec doesn't exist at this time. Oh man. So that's just my warning from anyone who's trying to no damage the game again. Give or take. This is the original PS3 version because this is the only way to play the game. I really wish that a new version would come out that runs at 60 FPS that is not a shit version, of course, because I don't want like a repeat of the Silent Hill HD collection. I would like a solid like 60 FPS running Metal Gear Solid 4 because this game still looks gorgeous like all these years later. I mean, yeah, some of the textures I guess like are a little bit weird compared to like the most modern games, but man, this is one of the best looking PS3 games of all time. It doesn't run the best in a lot of areas, but fuck, that's because the graphical detail is so high. Like when Metal Gear Rising came out, in order for that game to run at 60 FPS on its original like hardware, it had to look a lot uglier. But you know what? That was a good payoff because I'll take 60 FPS hack and slash gameplay over pretty graphics. Though I guess like in retrospect, since all the games are on PC, Metal Gear Rising is still a super fun game, especially for its boss fights. And I think there was oh yeah, some of the guides I found for like, you know, doing this fight. They say that the Phase 3 is the easiest out of like everything in Ocelot's fight, and that's just complete bullshit for no damage. So I forgot what guide that was, but man, I do not trust people who say, oh, Phase 3 of Ocelot's the easiest one. I don't even gotta explain shit. That is not true, dude. That is not true at all. And for the 4th phase, you may have noticed, oh, Ocelot hit me, so that's like forced damage. Yeah, it is kind of forced damage. I had like a previous theory like 2 to 3 years back that you can't die during that phase because I tested it out. Like, I got to the 4th phase, I let Ocelot hit me like 9 to 12 times and I did not die, so I assume you can't die. But I've heard conflicting reports that some people have managed to die in the 4th phase of like the Ocelot fight, but yeah. For hitting him, it becomes kind of like a movie, like every time you press the punch button and you're like in his area, you will do like a cinematic punching attack. And you can't exactly spam the punch because if you hit the punch button and you're too far away, you'll actually fail the punch. There won't be any cutscene and Snake will just do a punching animation and miss and Ocelot will get the jump on you. So yeah, I guess like no matter what you do, it seems like Ocelot's just always going to hit you at least once during the 4th phase, so don't worry too much about that. Anyways, Peace Walker. The game which I assumed would be impossible to no damage because, well, first of all, I had to do it on New Game Plus because I'm pretty sure on New Game it may actually be impossible because it'll just take too long. And these boss fights have a bit of an RNG element. Like, Peace Walker specifically has a very big RNG element where, every time it does jump engaged, there's always a chance that it'll like fuck you over. Because like, I mean, just like depending on where it decides to jump to, it could just jump right on top of you, and you can't really do much about it. You can't really do shit. And there's certain attacks you have to kind of like hide in the corners, like the corner like to my right there. And sometimes Peace Walker will either do a jump or a certain attack. They'll just hit you in the corner anyways. So this fight's kind of a crapshoot on New Game. I mean, it's kind of a crapshoot on New Game Plus. It is most certainly a crapshoot on New Game, and I have not seen anyone no damage this fight on New Game. I did see someone no damage the final boss Zeke on New Game Plus, and maybe there's some no damages of this fight like on New Game Plus nowadays, but just back in the day there was not that many resources for this. But I will say that Peace Walker overall, if you're playing on New Game Plus, the previous story boss fights are actually decently easy because they have like really overpowered like weapons to demolish their health bars. So some of the more tricky attacks won't be too much of an issue, but Peace Walker has so much health that even on New Game Plus, she still has a very chunkable like health bar that is still very threatening and still makes this fight last like 6 to 8 minutes. Like, Peace Walker being entirely robot fights, I'm not the biggest fan of. I mean, it is kind of cool that, you know, Kojima got to like make, like, you know, work with a team to design like the coolest robot fights in the franchise, because a lot of the time the previous games, the robot fights were just like, you know, it'll happen once. You know, like Metal Gear Solid 1 has one big robot fight. Metal Gear Solid 2 has one big robot fight. Metal Gear Solid 3 has probably the worst big robot fight because it's kind of just one big set piece. I mean, it's not a terrible fight, but just compared to like the first and second Metal Gear Solid games, it's just not as cool. Metal Gear Solid 4 gets like one of the coolest robot fights in the franchise. You get to play as the robot, you know, so on and so forth. Portable Ops, I think I hate the Portable Ops Metal Gear fight a lot more. I fucking despise that fight. Watch my original Metal Gear Solid like Portable Ops video to understand exactly why I hate the fucking Metal Gear like Solid Portable Ops boss fight. Like, you know, Metal Gear. Dude, I fucking hate that robot so much. It is infuriating. Like, okay, that attack sometimes like, though this is kind of like a little horsey slide, and sometimes that horsey slide like kind of like fucks you over in a way where like she kind of cuts corners and hits you when you're hiding in this corner. So it's kind of a crapshoot every now and then. And if you're in the middle of the field, well, good luck. Oh man, just there's a lot with Peace Walker boss fights. So yeah, some important YouTubers to shout out for Peace Walker is Sappy Joker Gaming, because they have uploaded the only no damage I've seen of the final boss fight, which gave me hope that it was indeed possible to do it, like back in the day when I was making my original Peace Walker no damage. And like I mentioned before, the rest of this game on New Game Plus really was pretty easy. Like, Peace Walker No Damage is a mostly pretty easy game aside from Main Ops 24. I also think I might be one of the first people to no damage Main Ops like 24 without killing anyone. Yeah, without killing anyone. Okay, I'm not sure if that's even true. But, and some boss fights. Like, some boss fights can be kind of tough. And also, Taz1, like Taz1 the word and then like 1 the letter, that's his whole name, showed me how to no damage the tank sections of this game. And also, someone's trying to sneak up on me, I can't believe this. Well, that was Adachi. Adachi has made himself present from Yakuza 7. Fun fact, I'm pretty sure the voice actor of Adachi in English and the voice actor of Big Boss in English are the exact same person. I think like Solid Snake and Big Boss might have different voices in Japanese. I mean, like in English it's David Hayter until we get to the 5th game where it's Keith Sutherland, which, you know, if you feel a little bit weird about that, just play the games in Japanese. Though I'm not sure if that's even an option. I mean, I've never done it because I've always fucked with the English voice cast. Keith Sutherland's really great in the role, but I think like the big shift from David Hayter to him was a little bit off, I'm not gonna lie. I don't think Keith Sutherland like picks up the same like voice acting like deliveries that David Hayter has. Like some of the subtleties or just quirks he picked up while playing the character for so many years, but Keith Sutherland does do a really good job. I don't think he like half-assed it at all. But another YouTuber I have to shout out for Peace Walker specifically is Darkness Fox. He showed me how to no damage the helicopter sections in Peace Walker. Just a little bit of a gimmicky stealth, but it is possible. Also in Peace Walker, getting supply drops is very, very important because you have very little ammo for these boss fights, and the little bits of ammo that you have are not going to be anywhere near enough to defeat them, so you're going to need to get those supply markers like ready. So you have supply grenades, you have the markers. I think I have the grenades because I'm doing New Game Plus and I was able to like activate that, but you also have like these markers you have to like physically place on the ground like mines. And every time you call one of these supply marker things, you know, every time you drop one of them, it's only going to give you ammo for 2 of your weapons, so when entering this fight, you're better off just carrying in 2 big rocket launchers. But if you carry in 3 weapons, the 3rd weapon can be really useful for, say, whenever like S-mines get activated, you can use the machine gun to shoot those, but using the machine gun to shoot the boss fight itself, it deals such little damage that there's like no point in doing it. Like, just give up. Like, don't do that. You're gonna have to use the rocket launchers to deal like good damage to these boss fights. And also when Peace Walker does like the fire piss move, pretty sure like Peace Walker might start doing it now. Okay, not sure. I think right now it's like jumping to activate like a nuclear. Nope, it's doing the fire piss. Ooh, my timing is impeccable. The S-mines that get launched can be kind of random, so even when I hide in this little corner here, sometimes I get hit by the S-mines, so if that happens to you, it's not your fault. The game's just kind of random with some of its boss fight designs. I believe that Peace Walker was very much inspired by Monster Hunter. I think Kojima like mentioned that. It is on the PSP. Monster Hunter is probably like one of the most famous games on the PSP. So this game has boss fights that take a good 30 to 40 minutes, just like Monster Hunter. You can play co-op to make the boss fights shorter in this game, just like Monster Hunter. However, I'm playing like the PS3 HD Collection release of this game, though I will say, I'm pretty sure my first playthrough of this game I played mostly on the PS Vita, which ran at like 20 FPS, but the PS Vita has like a second control stick, so you can map a lot of the camera movement to that second control stick, which just makes things a lot easier to control than the original PSP version. And I had a fun time with it on the PS Vita, but overall, I'm not sure if Peace Walker is like one of my most favorite like Metal Gear Solid games. Like, I think it is kind of like in the lower ranks of all the games I've played, because I just like the other games better. I like the, you know, the mix of like cutscenes and gameplay like more than Peace Walker. I feel like Peace Walker's like stealth rooms are just like too small. Like, I don't like them that much. Like, it's a little too easy to breeze through the entire game. I think I'm actually a much bigger fan of the way the Phantom Pain went about it, which, hey, they had a lot more technology to work with. You know, they're not, like, limited by the PSP's design. The levels are bigger, like, the enemy AI like, reacts a lot more. The stealth is, like, more intricate. So, like, the mission-based structure, I think, just pops off more in the Phantom Pain, despite some of the egregious padding which happens. Anyways, we've reached the Zeke fight, and if I stop talking, the video gets copyright claimed, so I gotta keep talking the entire time. But hey, I'm gonna be talking throughout these entire boss fights, so not much is gonna change here. I don't know if I fully described everything which Peace Walker does, but I think a lot of it is what you see is what you get, and like some of the things you see, you just have to like kind of keep in mind. Sometimes it will just hit you. Like the machine gun fire with Zeke here, like the general strategy is just run to the right while like Zeke is shooting you, but I swear I have certain moments where like they just shoot me anyways. One strategy you want to keep in mind with Zeke here is that whenever Zeke jumps on like the right platform there, you go to like the left panel here to activate this little attack thing where like the missiles like shoot at Zeke, and vice versa. So if Zeke is on the left side, you go to the right panel, like the right attack panel, to shoot stuff. And I'm also going to be shooting some rockets. And yeah, this boss fight's like really goofy. And I don't know if I like the story of it, like just like Paz being a secret agent for Cypher and just being like a whole reference to Metal Gear Solid 4. I don't think I fuck with that much, but like the actual fight itself is fun. The music is just like really dope, even though it is like super out of place. It's sung by Paz's like Japanese voice actress, and when you're playing in English, they do not like translate the song to English, so it's a little bit more surreal. Like it's not Paz singing it per se, but I guess like Tara Strong doing this like accent and also doing a song just would not work as well. Like it has to be the original Japanese. And for any supply drops, you have to go to a specific panel instead of like actually using the grenade. They don't let you bring the grenade into this mission, so there is that. And also, I am naked because I think when you're naked with the pink pants, you might run slightly faster. And if you don't, it's just a funny thing to wear. I'm like wearing the goofiest thing to wear during the boss fight because extra armor is not going to save you because I'm doing no damage. Any damage is like bad damage, and I don't want any of it. So might as well like get the the outfit with the least amount of defenses when you don't care about defense per se. Also, it should be mentioned that like this boss fight, you kind of have to create this boss fight before you fight. You get to choose the robot's colors, like its abilities, its defenses, its stats. And I built a pretty weak Zeke just to kind of like safeguard myself for the no damage. So if you made Zeke a lot stronger before doing this mission, you might be screwed because like Zeke might have way too much health, but I made it super weak and it just dies in a couple hits. But yeah, overall, I don't think Peace Walker is like my favorite game. Like it's not, but like it's not one of my favorite games in the franchise. I think a lot of the gameplay which got simplified for Metal Gear Solid 4 I don't like. I mean, I miss the ability to crawl. I really like my crawling ability and it's just not here. And the boss fights, I mean, some of my favorite boss fights in the previous games were like the more stealth like focused ones. Like the End in Snake Eater, like Raven, Vulcan Raven in Metal Gear Solid 1. Metal Gear Solid 2 doesn't really have like a solid one. I mean, I guess like the most like applicable one would be like Fat Man. I mean, Fat Man's fun. But like, man, that fight is just not as good as Vulcan Raven's or like the Ends. So I guess I have to give a special shout out to the Fury, which does have stealth elements like Vulcan Raven, but the Fury is probably like the most random ass fight in Snake Eater. Like a good majority of that fight is just RNG. I mean, it's still kind of cool. And there is like a solid no damage strat, which if you do manage to land it, like the fight ends like in a minute or two, which is like really easy. Honestly, the no damage strat for Vulcan Raven is very cheesy as well because fighting Vulcan Raven without a radar is kind of like a crapshoot, but it's fun when you're fighting that guy normally. Anyways, this is Ground Zeroes. Ground Zeroes has 0 boss fights, but hey, you fight a tank once. That's like the closest thing to a boss fight, so I just decided to include some footage of this paid demo, which the only consolation I have for like owning this game is that I got it for free because I pre-ordered the Phantom Pain when it came out, so Ground Zeroes just kind of came along with that for free, so it's practically a free demo for me, but some people paid $30 to $40 for this, which, fantastic gameplay. The level design is like phenomenal, but you can beat the main campaign in 20 to 30 minutes, and the extra content is just, fuck around a bit, do this thing which doesn't really matter for like the rest of the story. And one of the most absurd things that Ground Zeroes did was just like split up like extra missions between different versions of the game. Like, I think the Xbox version got the sick-ass ride-in mission. The PlayStation got a really lame mission where you just kind of walk up to objects and go, oh, I understood that reference like a Redditor. I think the PC version lets you do both of those extra missions, but just splitting any sort of content which the game could have between different versions when the game was already so short and like demanding of your money is like, what the fuck? Anyways, we're at the final boss, the Phantom Pain. This is the only big robot fight in the Phantom Pain. And there's honestly a good argument to be made that maybe like this boss fight isn't as interesting as some of the boss fights in the Peace Walker, but the Phantom Pain has 2 big advantages with Peace Walker. Number 1, this guy's health bar is nowhere near as long as the ones in Peace Walker. And 2, shooting is a lot more satisfying in the Phantom Pain because like, I guess like the gunplay in these games has never been their strong suit per se. I mean, Metal Gear Solid 1, you can never really shoot in first person. Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 has some really like fun gunplay, but it's also like kind of like abstracted and weird. I think. Oh wait, I was thinking I was gonna do something kind of weird there, but it's gonna happen later. But like Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3's like first person gunplay is kind of abstracted. You have to like stand in place, then you immediately go into first person mode. But it is pretty fun. And then Metal Gear Solid 4 adopts a more third person control style, but I just think like the third-person shooting in Metal Gear Solid 4 isn't its strong suit. Like it feels a little bit clunky when compared to I guess like better like third-person shooters. But then I think Metal Gear Solid 5 I think really hits its stride with like third-person shooting. And while Peace Walker's third-person shooting, it copies it pretty wholesale from Metal Gear Solid 4. But we're playing on the PSP and it's just like shooting a machine gun, shotgun. Like I don't know whether to blame it on the Foley or like the aiming animations or like the movement speed, but it just feels a little bit off. You know, like it's not the strong suit of the game. You know, it's just like it's in there. You know, it's useful for like advancing like a play style or, you know, for the stealth gameplay, but just playing the game solely for third-person shooting, I don't know if that's really the strong suit of Metal Gear Solid 4 or Peace Walker, but in the Phantom Pain, I really do think the shooting is phenomenal. It's like some of the best like around at the time, and the fact that it is also a stealth game is just great. I really, really love it. So the fact that the pointing and shooting at the enemy is just like a lot more fun in this game. You know, like your movement is like more satisfying. Like the Phantom Pain is, I think, is one of the best controlling like third-person games around. Just has such a snappiness to it. It's just like, I love it. I love it. I think like the only things I don't like about it is, did this game have a stamina meter? But I don't think it did. I think the only thing this game had was something along the lines of just like, I think the regenerating health is a little bit too modern for my taste. I kind of miss the health bars of like the olden days. And the limited inventory can be a bit annoying. I mean, they did it just so that, you know, switching between your weapons, like, you know, makes more sense. You know, because if you had like an infinite inventory, like in Metal Gear Solid 3 or 4, having to quickly switch between all your weapons could be a little bit like too drastic in the sense, or like just too overwhelming. Like, I gotta like switch between all my weapons on the fly. So those are like the only things I don't like about the stuff in like the Phantom Pain. But besides that, third-person shooting, the best in the franchise. Really, really love it. So that just makes Salanthropus like a little bit more fun to fight. Though this phase does suck. It pretty much like, I don't know if there's like another way to fight it, but like you pretty much have to like hide behind a big rock while the Salanthropus here like shoots a big laser. And during this no damage, I was doing all the extra objectives, which involves like pretty much baiting out Psycho Mantis and like shooting him when he like appears, when the robot tries to do a big drop kick. So I honestly could have like killed this boss fight a lot quicker, but since I'm waiting for Psycho Mantis to pop out, well, it's gonna take a while because you kind of have to like awkwardly just stand around until Psycho Mantis decides that this is Yakuza 6 and tries to do like a big dropkick. But this is not Yakuza 6, my friend. That dropkick ain't gonna do shit to Big Venom Snake. It's not Big Boss. Spoilers. But if you're watching a video about all the final boss fights in Metal Gear Solid, that shouldn't be too surprising. So I guess my only issue is that the final boss of this game isn't like the boss in Snake Eater, where, you know, every single skill you have like comes into play. Like, there's just stealth isn't really present here. I will have to give props that the Phantom Pain does have like one or two like good stealth boss fights. Oh, pretty sure all the boss fights aside from like 2 do revolve around stealth, but it's just like the stealth in the first encounter, like the one on the bridge, that's not really a stealth encounter, is it? That's just oh, you run away from them and like the fight doesn't happen. But like the actual stealth encounters I'm talking about is like the sniper. Well, there's Quiet. You know, that encounter's decent. That encounter's nice. And then you have the encounter with like the mist or the skulls or whatever the fuck they're called in this game. They're just kind of like the new unit of this game, and they don't have any personality, and they're kind of lame conceptually, but the fights are decent. The one against like the sniper unit, where there's like 4 different snipers in one field, that's a stealth boss fight, and I liked it quite a bit. So yeah, there's not much to say with Salanthropus here. I did one sick dodge when like the crystals popped up. I was about to run straight into one of them, and then I dodged to the left by doing like a little dive there. A dolphin dive, maybe that's what it's called. Like, that's what I'm saying when the movement's awesome. You can just like immediately dolphin dive whenever you want. In Ground Zero, it's actually like slightly more clunky to dolphin dive, but in the Phantom Pain, it's a lot snappier. So yeah, really, really like that. And I decided to include this boss fight twice. I decided to include like the normal story version and then like this extra extreme difficulty version, which you unlock in the second half of the game, where the game just starts repeating levels for no reason. This game just kind of like abandons a standard difficulty select and just, you know, whenever it wants a mission to be harder, it's like randomly an extra mission. And this is not applied to every mission in the game. But then again, the way the Phantom Pain does difficulty, I guess it would be kind of hard to balance that, because the game also has an adaptive difficulty slider, in the sense that, like, you know, if you use the tranquilizer too much on enemies like heads, whenever you replay a mission, like, enemies will have helmets, you know, and also as you're going along the game, enemies will start adopting helmets. Like, the more you play the game, the more the game adapts to you. So there'll be enemies that'll have more body armor if that was like a tactic you took in previous missions. So having a standard difficulty select really wouldn't work. But it's also kind of sad that like every mission doesn't have an extreme version, because it would be kind of nice to play like harder versions of like every mission in the game. But then I guess that would cause too much bloat for a game which already has a little bit too much bloat. So fuck it. I don't know. The Phantom Pain, out of all the games, is probably still in my top 3 just because of how much fun it is to play. Watch my Phantom Pain no damages, where I no damage every single main op from 1 to 50. or 0-1 to 50, I don't know, or was it 50, 51? I don't know, it's been such a while since I've done it, but like it was a really fun no damage. Like my top 3 Metal Gear Solid games would probably have to be Snake Eater, Sons of Liberty, and The Phantom Pain. They all have fun subtitles, ain't that neat? I really hope my commentary has like said enough to like interest you in playing these games, or just like has like been good enough at like describing like enough about what's going on in these situations, because like I feel like I skimmed over a lot, because if you want more context, watch my original no damage videos of every single like solid game in the franchise. I do plan on maybe no damaging the original Metal Gear 1 and 2, because like, okay, the original Metal Gear 1 maybe is a little bit like too old for me, in the sense like there's certain moments where I'm just completely lost in that game and I need to walk through, but Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake really fuck with that one. The music in the intro is incredible, oh my goodness. And that game also, I believe, added crawling. Okay, I'm not sure if crawling was in Metal Gear 1, but Metal Gear Solid 2, I know for a fact, definitely has crawling, so big thumbs up for that. And also, I did do another compilation video where I pretty much compiled every single boss fight in like the Metal Gear Solid franchise to one big video, because I never seen a no damage compilation of that. But that video is 5 hours long, so I thought I might as well make a final boss compilation to make a shorter video. 42 minutes, I mean, for those who don't want to watch a 5 hour long commentary video, I have a 42-minute commentary video, which is still really long. Anyways, I'm going to randomly play a song from Kiwami 2 to pretty much like end this boss fight off to make it epic for this replay. Like, the cassette feature in Metal Gear Solid The Phantom Pain is probably one of my favorite things ever. Like, the way you can just, like, immediately, like, play in-game music if you set it up right. And it's also one of the big reasons why I would recommend playing the PC version of this game over playing it on console, because on PC, you can go into this game's files, and there's a specific file where you can just put in, like, MP3s of whatever song you like, and it will show up in-game through this cassette, and you can just, like, select that song for certain missions. So, yeah. Really like that feature. Honestly, I have a varied... I mean, I played this game on release, and I have a lot of nostalgia for it. Really fuck with it. Like, I remember playing, I remember pre-ordering this game, like, the night before, like, it dropped or something. In the sense that, like, I was playing Ground Zeroes while waiting for the Phantom Pain to install, because I pre-ordered the game. And then, like, once I finished, like, the Ground Zeroes main campaign, I ended up just playing the Phantom Pain at like 1 or 2 a.m. I finished like the main prologue mission, then I finished like the first main mission, and I showed up to school at like 3, like going to sleep at like 3 or 4 a.m. and it was crazy. Just fun times with that, fun, memorable times. I was not old enough to play those games. I was not 17 plus, 18 plus, though. I may have like limited information in the sense that like, can't you enter like R-rated movies as a 15-year-old? Like, aren't you legally allowed to do that? I don't know if it depends on countries. Boom, Yakuza 6 Tiger, like, dropkick, not gonna work, kid. Get out of here. So yeah, thank you so much for sticking around and watching my no damage of all the final boss fights in the Metal Gear Solid Saga, and I'll see you all then for my next video. Peace out.